It's nice to do a year in review video that's not wholly depressing. Hello, geeks, freaks, and all those unique. This is Emcee Frodis. About 1 year ago, we embarked on one of the most exciting times to be a Star Trek fan, with a super eventful year. I wanted to look back on that year and list my favorite things that happened. Number 10, the death of Q. While your mileage may vary on the second season of Picard, one thing almost every viewer appreciated was being able to see Q once again. From his first appearance, in which Q updates his appearance in a way everyone expected but would have been disappointed if it didn't happen, until his final conversation with Jean-Luc, it was wonderful to be able to see John Delancey on screen again for this final time. There is something heartbreakingly beautiful in the final scene between these two characters. When we first meet Q and encounter at Farpoint, he is on high judging Picard. And even in All Good Things, he's doing the exact same thing. But now, after 35 years, they're sitting across from one another, for the first time really being equals. And we find out why he's always been intrigued by Picard. It's what we've always suspected. Q just plain likes Picard. Other things from this series that brought joy to the fandom were the returns of Guinan and Wesley Crusher, as well as 7 of 9 finally earning a Starfleet commission. Picard has served as a true sequel to The Next Generation, giving us closure on many beloved characters of the franchise, but more on that later. Number 9, the USS Discovery goes intergalactic. Star Trek Discovery has always blazed new trails in the galaxy, but Season 4 on the show sent us to where no man has gone before. Except in Where No Man Has Gone Before, but pilot episodes are weird and we tend to ignore them. Each season of Discovery has raised the stakes, and this one was no exception, as the galaxy we know suffered devastation due to a dark matter anomaly that destroyed several planets, including Book's home of Kwejian. The threat was coming from a species existing outside of our galaxy known as 10C. The plot paid tribute to classic science fiction like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Contact. Star Trek has always been about exploring strange new worlds, and Discovery is keeping up that tradition, bringing us to places and civilizations that are beyond human comprehension. But as big as it goes, it still takes the time to show us the smaller, personal stories of the characters we've fallen in love with over the past 4 seasons. Other important events in Discovery were Tilly leaving the crew to teach at the Academy, hinting at a new spin-off, Navarre rejoining the Federation, and Stacey Abrams cameoing as the President of Earth. Discovery has always boldly gone, and it continues to up its game with every season. Number 8, Star Trek Prodigy brings in kid Trekkies. Never let anyone tell you that cartoons are just for kids, as it took Star Trek 3 animated shows to finally make one geared towards kids. As live-action Trek has become more mature, something was needed to bridge the gap, bringing in Star Trek to a new generation. And this is where Prodigy comes in. Prodigy follows a crew of young aliens in the Delta Quadrants who find the USS Protostar, an abandoned Starfleet vessel. They try to make their way to the Alpha Quadrant, along with their emergency training holographic advisor, Captain Janeway. Prodigy gives kids a gateway into Trek fandom, while still appealing to the older demographic with good stories. It takes great advantage of CGI animation, showing alien species that would otherwise not be able to appear on the show on a regular basis. It also allows actors who have passed away or retired to appear in creative use of archival audio, as was the case with Renee Auberjonois, Jimmy Doohan, Nichelle Nichols, and Leonard Nimoy in Kobayashi Maru. As long as we have a series like Prodigy on the air, we can be assured that we will have young Trekkies to keep the fandom alive. Number 7, Lower Decks continues to be a love letter to Trek. Lower Decks was a gamble on the part of the franchise. It was unlike anything that had been done before. It was not only an animated Star Trek series, but instead of being an action-adventure, it was a comedy. Its first season was incredibly well received, and its second season kicked off the year of Star Trek. The second season proved to not only meet, but surpass season 1. We got to know the characters better, delving into new aspects of Mariner, Boimler, Tendi, Rutherford, and the senior staff. And we got to see different combinations of the cast, with Mariner and Tendi going on a girls' trip and We'll Always Have Tom Paris. Boimler and Rutherford feared Mariner's wrath in Mugatu Gamato. And we got to see other lower decks in Wei Juge. More 24th century Star Trek characters got to reappear, with Captain Will Riker making another appearance after his cameo in no small parts. Tom Paris appeared in the episode named after him. We got to see Shelby and Sonia Gomez, now both promoted to captain, as well as the outrageous Okana. Lower Decks also continues modern Trek's striving for representation, confirming Mariner's pansexuality, as well as showing Lieutenant Billups as asexual, both orientations which are rarer to see in media. Lower Decks Season 3 will be ushering in the new year of Trek again, and it's something fans have started anticipating every August. Number 6, Star Trek announces a cross-media project. With both Prodigy and Lower Decks, Star Trek has firmly established itself as a multimedia franchise, utilizing both animation and live action for its properties. No one expected that this would result in a cross-media crossover, yet at San Diego Comic-Con, Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid of Lower Decks crashed the Strange New Worlds panel, announcing that Beckett Mariner and Bradwood Boimler would be appearing in the second season of Strange New Worlds. While Star Trek has been crossing over its properties since they had multiple properties to cross over, this is the first time it's been done for modern Trek. Fans suspected it could happen. With so many projects happening, it seemed natural for one to cross over with another. But going with this one first makes a statement, as it tells us that nothing is off the table in terms of what Star Trek is willing to experiment with. Not only are these characters separated by over 100 years in universe, but they exist in 2 different mediums and genres. It tells us that this universe is wide open, and they're willing to experiment with different stories. The project is still pretty under wraps along with the rest of Season 2 of Strange New Worlds, but we do know that both animated and live-action elements will be used, although Mariner and Boimler will be appearing in live action. It's a super exciting prospect, and fans are waiting with bated breath to see where it will lead. Number 5, the Enterprise E crew will reunite. As soon as Star Trek Picard was announced, fans were wondering which characters from Star Trek Next Generation would join Picard for his adventure. Hopes were quickly dashed when Patrick Stewart announced that, aside from brief appearances by Data, Riker, and Troy, the focus would be solely on Picard. Fans were left wondering what had happened to the rest of the crew of the Enterprise E in the intervening years. An answer to this question was promised in April, with the Season 3 announcement promising the return of the entire TNG cast, save for Will Wheaton, who, as mentioned before, made a cameo at the end of Season 2, and Denise Crosby. At San Diego Comic-Con, fans would be given their first look at the cast as they would appear in Picard. Every Starfleet crew feels like a family, seeing each other through episode after episode and going through the toughest times together. This is why we want to see them together again, because we want to experience that camaraderie and affection again. While it's a bummer to lose most of the crew of La Sirena, it's exciting to see the crews of the D and the E get one final outing together. Number 4. Kelvin number 4 is announced. The Renaissance in Star Trek would not have happened were it not for the blockbuster Kelvinverse reboot movies. They are a version of Star Trek that has transcended the fandom, appealing to casual moviegoers. This made it disappointing when it seemed like we weren't going to get a 4th movie, especially after Beyond was such a great, if underappreciated one. With Star Trek moving into Strange New Worlds, it seemed like any hope of revisiting the Kelvinverse was pretty dead. But fans were shocked when Paramount announced they were indeed moving forward with a 4th Kelvinverse movie. There is just so much potential for growth with these movies, with an established crew now secure in their roles on the Enterprise A. Reviving the Kelvinverse also brings the possibility of fun crossovers within the franchise. The crossing over of Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds tells us that they're willing to be experimental. Multiversal stories are really popular right now. Who knows, where Spider-Man has Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield, Star Trek could have Chris Pine, William Shatner, and Paul Wesley team up. Whatever happens in the Kelvinverse, I'm just glad they're doing more of it. As someone who is just a huge fan of that particular timeline, I want to see more from these versions of the characters. There's just so many places that they can go, and they deserve to be an active part of the franchise. Number 3, the Enterprise explores strange new worlds. As soon as the USS Enterprise appeared in Star Trek Discovery, fans were clamoring for a spin-off show about the adventures of Captain Pike, Number 1, and Lieutenant Spock. Trek fans have historically been a tenacious bunch, and this was no exception, with the desire for Pike's Enterprise getting its own show manifesting in Strange New Worlds. Going back to Star Trek's episodic roots, Strange New Worlds immediately found popularity within the fandom, allowing for a lighter atmosphere in the grittier modern Star Trek, while still being an action-adventure. The series also took time to deeper explore legacy characters like Uhura, Chapel, Mbenga, and T'Pring. The episodic format would allow for a variety of episodes, with serious pieces such as Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach, Memento Mori, and Requiem, as well as the wholly ridiculous Spock Amok, and ones that straddle both extremes like the Elysium Kingdom. Right out of the gate, the series has become a tentpole for modern Star Trek, being something that connects all of the other Trek series, which is probably why it was chosen to be one of the shows that would be part of the first modern crossover. It's been 57 years since The Cage was made, but Strange New Worlds has finally brought to fruition the promise of that pilot. Number 2, 29 straight weeks of Star Trek. By sheer quantity alone, there is no better time to be a Star Trek fan. In the past, the most Star Trek we could ever hope for was 2 syndicated series. Now there are 5 different shows, all with different characters, storylines, and moods. There is truly a Star Trek for everyone out there. Even if you don't like everything, odds are fairly good you're going to like something. For those of us who did like everything, it was an absolute boon. For 29 weeks, we had a new episode of Star Trek to watch and talk about. Congratulations, and I'm sorry to all of those podcasters and YouTubers who had to come out with timely episodes discussing every show. I only did the 10 weeks of Strange New Worlds, and I found that to be difficult to keep up with. I can only imagine doing that for 3 times the length. If there was any flaw in how these 29 weeks went, it was the few weeks where they overlapped. That move buried one of the episodes in favor of another and made it difficult for fans to keep focus, especially as they all aired on the same day. We could have had an even longer streak without that. Hopefully in the future, these sort of kinks will be smoothed out. I think we're close to a time when we could have an entire year of uninterrupted Star Trek. Does that sound like an exhausting thing to keep up with? Absolutely. Am I here for that? You better believe it. Number 1, Trekkies meet up again. The best and most important thing about the Star Trek fandom isn't the Star Trek part. It's the fandom. What has kept this show going for 56 years is the fans, and what has brought me deeper into the fandom is the people in it. After the hazy years of isolation that were the COVID pandemic, conventions have started up again in earnest, with Mission Chicago really kicking things off again, and this is what's important to me. This is what cemented me as an absolute Trekkie. I got to meet so many wonderful people at the convention who I just felt an instant bond with. People that I talk to now every day, not just about Star Trek. I mean, often about Star Trek, but plenty of other things as well. We share each other's joy and comfort each other in bad times. And having time to get together and just let loose, enjoying the thing that brought us together in the first place, is just joyful. While Mission Chicago was the first time I was able to go to a Star Trek convention, I did go to another convention this year, though this time it was Star Wars Celebration. Though even then, I still got to do a lot of Star Trek stuff, hanging out with the infamous Giraffe, where she got herself a Star Trek tattoo because she's chaotic that way. And I will be getting to experience a Star Trek convention again in just a few weeks as I go to the 56-year mission in Las Vegas. This is easily my number 1, because it's always going to be good friends that keep me interested in a fandom. So that's it. My top 10 things that brought me joy in this last year of Star Trek. So comment down below with your favorite moments from the last 12 months of Star Trek. If you like my videos, subscribe to my channel. I do videos about Star Trek, Star Wars, and lots of other geeky things. If you want to support me, please visit my Patreon. You can also buy me a coffee, or you can go to my Redbubble or TeePublic and buy my geeky graphic designs. So until next time, live long and may the Force be with you.